Nick Ashew here with the DMV.
Has concluded.
The DMVSTREAM.COM play
Sean Parker along with Nick Allison.
I always wanted to play volleyball in college.
Cordova trying to dig it out of the board. And they score! Hello and welcome into another edition of the Prep Zone here on DMVSTREAM.com. I'm Jeremy Huber, joined today by the usual crew, Brenton Randolph and Derek Kramer. We'll take you around the DMV when it comes to high school sports, get you up to date on everything going on in the area. So much good football action. We'll recap it, we'll preview it. Of course, on today's show, you see what we're going to talk about, the big Turkey Bowl rematch between HD Woodson and Wilson. Also that rivalry battle between West Potomac and West Springfield. Eastern and Dunbar faced off in a DC public school battle. Also on the agenda for today, a matchup in Maryland between Oxon Hill and C.H. Flowers, a private school battle between Riverdale Baptist and Bullis, and another Maryland battle over in Anne Arundel County as traditional powers Broadneck and Arundel face off. Also, some big games coming up this week. They include the huge showdown, top five showdown, if you will, between DeMatha and Gonzaga, the big PG County matchup between Eleanor Roosevelt and Wise, and also a big Nova showdown. It's Madison and South Lakes. Both those teams coming into that one undefeated. If you want to watch the Prep Zone, plenty of places to do it. You can see them on your screen exactly where to find us every week talking about high school sports in the DMV. Well, a lot's coming up on the show. We'll get all to it in just 1 second. But first, let's take a look at how to get your play included each week on All Met Sports Top Plays.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to an all-new season of Top Plays here at allmetsports.com and washingtonpost.com. I'm your host, BJ Kubarulis. Now, as we've done the past 4 seasons, we're continuing our exciting interactive high school football show that allows you, the coaches, players, parents, and fans, and others, to send in your video submissions for ranking in our Top 10 style weekly show. If you want to see your highlight in this show, well, it's as simple as tweeting your boy. I'm at BJ Koob, and you got to remember to hashtag it, Ole Mets. All right, you can tweet in your Huddle, YouTube, Vimeo, really any video link by Sundays at noon, and we'll consider it for use in the upcoming episode of Top Plays. Now, you got to remember to tune in on Mondays to see if your video made our Top 10 at allmetsports.com. We'll see you soon.
Hello, everybody. Jeremy Huber here to highlight a local athlete's performance. North Point sophomore Malik Lawrence had a breakout game with 9 receptions for 193 yards and 3 touchdowns to help lead the Eagles to a 26-0 win over Chopticon. If you want to see your content on this show, be sure to tweet us your nomination at DMVStream. Welcome back into the Prep Zone, where it's now time for the Weekend Rewind, where we take a look back at the big games from last week. Derek, we're going to start with you and that big one in D.C., the Turkey Bowl rematch between HD Woodson and Wilson.
Yeah, this was a classic shootout between two very talented teams in D.C. See, Woodson, they lost their starting quarterback, Khalil Wright, to a season-ending injury, but backup quarterback Tyron Robinson came in and stepped in very well. Here you see Charles Peeler take a big, long kickoff return back to the house. This was a key possession of the game. It really got the team back on track after a little bit of a slow start. But they came on really strong in the first half with another kickoff return from running back Michael Sahuddin. And he had another great game. He had 15 carries for 70 yards as running back. And what I was most impressed was their defense came up tough in big possessions. They let up a couple times, but when it came up clutch, they came in through the wires and really clamped down on defense. And here's a big throw, 63-yard pass to the 6'3" wide receiver. I was really impressed with Tyron Robinson. He came in, he took a couple big shots, but he came away with the game with 3 touchdowns, and he led his team to victory. Yeah, big. Of course, Robinson, your player to watch in that game. Yeah, he really came in clutch the whole week. His teammates were really giving him positive energy to really step in and become the leader of that team, and he really came through. Yeah, Robinson coming up big. He ends up getting hurt a little bit, banged up late in the game. Have to go to kind of a
a wildcat offense, if you will, and actually the big play in that one, from talking to head coach Greg Fuller, a fake punt late in the matchup that let them convert and end up going ahead and run the clock out. So big game there as H.D. Woodson goes to 5-1 on the year. Wilson falls to 4-2, and some big games coming up. We could see those two teams meeting again in the D.C. playoffs. Well, we now swing it over to Virginia, and Brenton, your matchup, that rivalry game between West Potomac and West Springfield.
That's right, Jeremy. West Potomac beat West Springfield in the most recent matchup in the playoffs last season. This game was a big-time shootout. Both teams had a very big day offensively. This is the third play of the game. West Springfield's Peter Musket finds his man Najee Green, and there's nothing but green in front of him as he goes into the end zone for a 70-yard touchdown. That play set the pace for the game as both teams would go back and forth. Mark Ellis would find Brandon Lisenby for a touchdown on 4th down. So that was a play that they had to have, but not to be outdone. Peter Musket, this time he'll take it in himself a rushing touchdown. He had 2 rushing touchdowns to go along with his 4 passing touchdowns. So a big day for Peter Musket. West Potomac's running game got into it as well. Justine Anand had a touchdown, but also Damon Cleveland had a big game. Here he reverses field and goes all the way over to the other sideline for a 30-yard touchdown run. He had over 100 yards on the day, so he was very effective getting to the outside. And last but not least, Mark Ellis would finish things off with a touchdown pass to DeJuan Belfield. That would be Mark Ellis' 3rd touchdown of the day, and that'd be the difference as West Potomac came away with the victory 47-40.
Yeah, big game there, and of course the top player in the game, the guy you mentioned before.
Right, Damon Cleveland. He had 19 attempts, 103 yards, and the 2 touchdowns. And Mark Ellis was telling me after the game he was very effective getting to the outside, and that was something that also helped them with their passing game as well. So he's my player of the game.
Jeremiah Ross's crew doing some really good things at West Potomac. Remember, their only loss of the season coming against Lake Braddock. They've got a big showdown coming up with South County in just a bit. Should be interesting to see what the Wolverines are able to do. Well, our third game of the weekend rewind, that one we head back into the district. And Derek, it was a matchup between Eastern and Dunbar.
Yeah, I got to go see this game, and I came away very impressed with senior quarterback Jerome Johnson from Eastern. He is so crafty with his moves. You'll see him take it in with the quarterback keeper here, and it's one of his 4 touchdowns on the game. He really kept every play alive, and he gave time for his receivers to get open, and he made everything happen for that offense. His coach after the game, very impressed with him. Sometimes he says he wants them to slow down with his Superman moves, but it gets the job done, and he's a very impressive player, and I give all the credit in the world to him. On the other side, on defense, Jaja Hill, sophomore cornerback here, he felt like he was getting picked on early in the game. He let up a touchdown here, but he came back clutch at the end of the game. He had the game-clinching interception, and this was the fumble right before that stops the Dunbar job that looked like they were going to make it a 1-possession game. But Jaja Hill here comes back for redemption and gets the game-clinching interception to seal the game. And he was so hyped up after the game. It was great seeing a sophomore like that, redeeming himself, making a great pick, and it was a great victory for them.
Yeah, definitely big for Eastern, their 4th win on the season. Your top performer, I think it takes about one guess to figure out who it was.
Oh, yeah, Jerome Johnson. He is just an incredible quarterback. He's so crafty with his moves. He looks like he's going left, he'll go right, come across the middle and find his man wide open. Great player. He was so fun to watch.
Good news for Eastern. They're 2-0 in DCIAA Stars play. The problem is they've got a tough schedule coming up, matchups against H.D. Woodson, Ballou, Wilson as well. So we'll see what the defending Gravy Bowl champions are made of as they go ahead and face off against those very tough teams. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at DMVSTREAM.com's partnership with USA Football as we broadcast 3 developmental games from Towson University. We continue with the weekend rewind, and now we'll head back over to the state of Maryland, and this time we'll check in a matchup between Oxon Hill and CH Flowers. Of course, Brenton, Oxon Hill putting that undefeated record on the line.
That's right. Oxon Hill came into this game 5-0, undefeated, one of their best starts in about 20 years. And this game was very rainy. Rain was pouring down all game long. They're playing on real grass, so the field was muddy. Everybody's got a dirty jersey. No one went home with a clean jersey, I can tell you that much. The start of the play that sealed it, Daniel George came up with the interception late as the Jaguars were trying to drive. But both teams struggled offensively early, as you might expect, adjusting. So Oxon Hill would resort to their special teams. And once again, it's Daniel George coming up with the big play, getting to the sidelines and going in for the touchdown. That gave Oxon Hill their 12-7 lead. And like you could see, players were just sliding everywhere after every single tackle. But one guy that had a good game for the Jaguars was their running back, Mekhi Williams. He had their lone touchdown that put them up early. But Oxon Hill responded. Once again, Daniel George coming up with the touchdown catch in the second quarter to respond. And Oxon Hill just came up with a couple more plays than Flowers was able to come up with, and that would be the difference in that 12-7 victory. That puts them at 6-0 and clinches their first winning record in about 20 years.
Yeah, and of course, Oxon Hill with some other things on their mind, including maybe a deep playoff run. Brenton, your top performer in that contest.
Right, my top performer, no doubt, was Daniel George. He had the touchdown catch, he had the punt return for the touchdown, he had the interception, and also not pictured, he had a forced fumble that sort of shifted momentum from the Jaguars side over to the Clippers side. And without that play, Oxon Hill might not have won. So, yeah, he was definitely the player of the game.
Clippers doing some good things under former Dunbar coach Craig Jeffries. Of course, right now they are first in 3A South in the Maryland Power Point standings. So Clippers could be poised for a pretty good run this year. Well, our next game of the weekend rewind. This one a private school battle. As Derek, it was Riverdale Baptist taking on Bullis.
Yeah, Riverdale Baptist came off really strong in this game. They really showed that their rushing game has really come on strong, and that's mostly due to Carlos Washington Jr. He's really put the team on his back and had a lot of nice runs. You see they went up 49-18. Number 2, Carlos Washington Jr., he really had a great game. He said after the game that he came in wanting to put the team on his back, and he did so in every facet of the game. He had a great game rushing, and he also had a lot of receiving yards coming out of the backfield as well, and he really did a great job. You can see him coming out of nowhere, making a great catch, and really just putting the team on his back, and he was so hyped after the game. It was great to see. But it was a great all-around victory, and Riverdale Baptist is going to have a great matchup next week against Archbishop Spalding, and Bullis is going to look to get back on track against Episcopal next week, and it should be interesting to see how both teams do next week.
Yeah, Bullis heading into IAC play. Riverdale Baptist has some good ones coming up. Of course, there are only 2 losses on the year, coming against McNamara and Georgetown Prep. Well, Derek, your top performer in this contest was?
Yeah, it's Carlos Washington Jr. He had 22 rushing attempts for 245 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. He was just the main catalyst for the team, and he really came out strong early and didn't let up the entire game. It was a very impressive showing.
Yeah, doing some good things for Caesar Nettles and the Crusaders as they improved to 5-2 on the season. Well, one more game on the weekend rewind, that one in Maryland. It was in Anne Arundel County, and Brenton, it was a nice one between Broadneck and Arundel, at least a nice one going in on paper.
Right, it was a nice one going in on paper. Both teams were looking to rebound from a tough loss the previous week, and Broadneck really kind of took it away from him. And it starts with this play, the fumble, and then Darnell Creek's right there to pounce on it and take it all the way back to the house. And that would be one of 3 turnovers on the day for Arundel, so tough night for them. Broadneck also was very strong rushing the football. Darnell Creek breaking a couple of tackles here on his way to a 40-yard run, and he wasn't the only player that had a big game for them either. They had 2 running backs that had over 100 yards. Here's Jason Carsamo breaking a big run. He was one of them. He had 106 yards for the game, and the other guy that had over 100 yards was Chris Watts as he takes it into the end zone here for a touchdown, and he had 3 on the game. And then last but not least, Darnell Creek has the final interception. That would cap it off, and Broadneck would go on to win comfortably 45-12.
A lot of folks to choose from, but who was your player to watch, or who was your top performer in that contest?
Well, my top performer was their running back, Chris Watts. He had the 17 attempts, the 113 rushing yards, and the thing that put him over the top would be the 3 touchdowns. So that was probably what might have separated him just a little bit from Carsano and gave him the edge in the player of the game vote.
Yeah, and of course he came back. That was his game back from a shoulder injury. Really a nice game back for Chris Watts and the Broadneck Bruins to get that win over Arundel. Of course, they're still kind of chasing when it comes to a playoff spot over in 4A East, but got some big ones coming up. Old Mill on the schedule will be a good chance for the Bruins to go ahead and get themselves back into a playoff spot, a place where they normally are at this point in the season. Well, as you might know, I host the high school football show, The Final Drive, Friday nights here on DMVSTREAM.com, and last week I had a chance to catch up with Briarwood's head coach Charlie Pierce after the Falcons upset previously 12th ranked Westfield 35-34 in double overtime. Fantastic win for you guys tonight. Of course, you had a big one earlier in the year against Tuscarora, which is looking bigger now because they're playing some good ball. But obviously, anytime you can knock off the defending 6A champs in Virginia, it's a big win for you. First off, Coach, I think we got to start with Ben Maffey. A fantastic performance. He's a D1 recruit. He's headed off to school next year. But, boy, did he show his colors tonight. 5 touchdowns. Talk about his performance.
Well, Ben is a physical specimen. He's 6'3", 220, 225. And he's got outstanding speed, and when he gets that head of steam going, he's a load to take down, and we've been toying with him back on defense, and suddenly finally made a decision just for him to stay on the offensive side, and since we decided to put him on the offensive side, he's even gotten better on that side, and so it really came to fruition tonight with his play, and especially in overtime and things like that.
Yeah, and again, doing some big things for you. But interestingly enough, Coach, you end up winning the game with a defensive stop at the end. It's funny, last week, DeMatha and St. John's, they were 1-2 they played. They end up getting a stop, DeMatha, on a 2-point conversion. This time, Westfield went for 2 against you guys in overtime. Your defense was up to the challenge. I know you're an old nose guard. That had to make you happy, didn't it?
Yes, it did. This was probably this year by far it's our best defensive effort. Obviously we shut out Tuscarora, but playing the team caliber Westfield, we had emphasized stopping the run and forcing to throw and things like that. And we bet a lot tonight. We had a turnover and we kept them to a field goal. I'm really pleased with our defensive effort. I couldn't be happier for those guys on the defensive side of the ball.
Who are some guys for you that stood out tonight?
Well, our secondary, the Springs brothers, Jake Kleifkes, our rover, Joseph Groves, our other young corner. They did a great job. They allowed us to put an extra guy in the box at times. And so the whole front, Cole Schaaf, our outside linebacker, he must have deflected 3 balls, almost had a pick off a deflection. And our inside linebackers with Garcia and Ward, those guys have been special all year, and they did a great job. And those guys go both ways, Garcia and Ward for the most part. So it's tough. And Alex Ronk, he's our best defensive line. He did a great job tonight.
Now time for our allmetsports.com weekly fast forward. Remember, if you want to catch the Final Drive Fridays at 10:30 p.m. You can see it right here on DMVStream.com with yours truly doing hosting duties. Again, let's get into the fast forward, guys, and a big one at the top. Number 1 DeMatha versus number 4 Gonzaga. Brenton, it's all you.
Oh yeah, I mean these are 2 of the top teams in the DMV. Gonzaga was the only team to defeat DeMatha last year, so we'll see if they can do it again or if DeMatha can redeem themselves. Gonzaga was able to win thanks in large part to this play by Max Fisher. He had a 75-yard touchdown in the 24-14 victory, but of course they've also got their big-time stud running back, Tyree Randolph. He's already got over 900 yards on the season. He's closing in on 1,000 yards in just 6 games. He's got 17 touchdowns to go along with it and 2 receiving touchdowns, so he can really do it all for Gonzaga, and he is going to look to have another big game against DeMatha like he did last season. Meanwhile, on DeMatha's side, you've got tons of great weapons. You've got Bo English, you've got their running back, Corey Spruill, and they had a tough test earlier this season against St. John's, a close 14-13 victory, so I'd expect this to be their second big test as they try to redeem themselves and beat Gonzaga this year.
Yeah, the only blemish on DeMatha's record last season, they're 7-0 now. They would love to keep that 0 in the loss column. Let's go ahead and take a look at players to watch in this, Brenton. We will start with DeMatha.
Right, we'll start with DeMatha, and we'll start with the guy I mentioned earlier, their running back, Corey Spruill. He's got 508 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns this season. He'll be somebody that DeMatha will look to get going early and often if they're going to be able to redeem themselves.
And the other running back, I think your other player to watch?
Right, absolutely. Tyree Randolph, already, like I mentioned, 991 rushing yards and second in the area with 17 touchdowns. No doubt Gonzaga's offense just runs through him. So if he has a big game, then Gonzaga might be able to win for the second straight season.
Let's go ahead and make our picks in this one. I believe we are in agreement across the board. Derek, your pick?
Yeah, I can't see DeMatha losing this one. They've got the big D end and Chase Young, and I think DeMatha's going to stay undefeated this year.
You, Brenton?
Yeah, I've got DeMatha redeeming themselves. I think there's going to be a little bit of extra motivation coming into this game for those guys, and I expect them to pull it out.
I agree wholeheartedly. I expect the Stags to win this one as they get a little revenge for their blemish last year. Well, our second game of the weekly Fast Forward, it's a big one in Maryland, Derek, as it's Eleanor Roosevelt taking on Wise.
Yeah, this is going to be a great PG County game, and Wise undefeated, #2 in the DMV, but this might be their first big test of the year as Eleanor Roosevelt has looked very impressive this year. They're averaging 31 points a game compared to Wise averaging 45 points a game, but I look for a very intense matchup this year. I think Wise is going to pull it off, but I think Wise, they have a really good team this year, led by a really stout defense and a lot of good running game. Their player to watch is Mofer, who is averaging 169 yards a game, as we see right here. And I don't know if Wise can be stopped this year, but they've looked very impressive. But Eleanor Roosevelt, on the other hand, they've also done a lot of good things on the running ground, and they're averaging 291 yards on the ground. So if they can get the running game started against Wise, they might be able to hold Wise off the field, and they might be able to pull it off. And I look for a very, very, very good game this week.
Yeah, that triple option attack for Eleanor Roosevelt can be very effective at times. We'll see if they can do it against Wise. You mentioned your player to watch. It's Carl Mofor on the side for the Raiders.
Yeah, and he's got 1,000 yards already. He's averaging almost 9 a carry, 11 touchdowns. If he gets going, I think they might run the table.
On the other side of things, when it comes to players to watch, it's the quarterback for Wise.
Exactly. He's got 11 passing touchdowns, almost 700 passing yards, and 300 yards on the ground. I think he also is the player of the game to watch. If he gets started, I think he might be able to pull it off for Wise.
Yeah, of course, Jabari Laws there, the player to watch. And remember, Wise with a big win last year against Eleanor Roosevelt, won 41-6. These two teams, the top two teams when it comes to the power rankings in 4A South. So could be some playoff positioning on the line in this one between these two teams. Let's take a look at our picks in this one. And again, I think, guys, we are in agreement. I'm going with Wise in this one. The Pumas just too much. How about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Wise too. I think Jabari Laws is going to have a big game, and I expect that big game to translate on the field, and then that'll lead them to win again and stay undefeated.
Derek?
Yep, I think Wise is going to take it and stay undefeated this year.
Well, again, we are in agreement. We'll be right back, but first, let's take a look at this week's Athlete of the Week and Play of the Week. Hello, everybody. Jeremy Huber here to unveil the DMVSTREAM.COM Athlete of the Week, which goes to Dominion's Vashawn McCants. The senior ran all over Loudoun County to the tune of 236 yards and 5 touchdowns, and also threw for 64 yards, leading the Titans to the 37-10 victory. If you want to be the DMV Stream Athlete of the Week, be sure to tweet us your nomination at DMVStream. Hello, everyone. Jeremy Huber here to unveil the DMVSTREAM.COM Play of the Week, which comes to us from Ashburn, Virginia. Briarwood's Ben Maffey takes the snap, cuts to the outside, and stiff arms the last defender to squeeze into the end zone for the go-ahead touchdown. The Marshall Recruit would finish with all 5 of Briarwood's TDs in the 35-34 double overtime win. If you want to see your play as the play of the week on this show, be sure to tweet us at DMVStream. Welcome back in, and now time for the final game of the AllMetSports.com weekly fast forward. And this one, folks, is in Nova. It's a big one. It's a battle in Conference 6 between Madison and South Lakes.
That's right, Jeremy. Madison and South Lakes both coming into this game undefeated, so it should be a good one as South Lakes has a great passing attack. Their leading quarterback already has 10 touchdowns on the season, and they're also a very opportunistic team defensively. If they can force turnovers, they can also turn them back and go for scores. But their biggest strength, I would say, is their running game, which is led by Spencer Alston. He's got 424 rushing yards, and he's got 10 rushing touchdowns, as well as 5 receiving touchdowns. So he's a versatile running back. Meanwhile, on the other side for Madison, they're a team that likes to air it out. They're also a team that isn't afraid to run trick plays like this hook and ladder play against Stonebridge that came late in the fourth quarter while they were trailing. So it takes a lot of guts to call and execute that type of play. And even if the passing game isn't working, they can run it up the gut like a traditional team, and they're a very versatile team. So I expect this to be a very good game.
Yeah, Lenny Schultz doing some good things with the Warhawks. Quickly, let's look at your players to watch. Let's start with Madison.
Right, we'll start with Madison, and it starts with their quarterback, Jacob Hutke. He's the guy that is the leader passing. He's got over 1,100 yards, almost 1,200 yards, 11 passing touchdowns to only 2 interceptions, so he's done a good job of protecting the ball for Madison.
And for South Lakes, Spencer Alston.
Right, Spencer Alston, like I said earlier, he's got 424 yards, an average of 6 yards per carry. So he's somebody that Madison will have to try and stop if they're going to be successful and beat South Lakes and stay undefeated.
Quick picks in this one between the South Lakes and Madison. I'm going to go ahead with South Lakes. You guys real quickly. One word answer.
Oh, Madison.
South Lakes.
All right, that's what we got here. So again, we'll see exactly how it goes, but should be a good weekend of football. For Derek, for Brenton, I'm Jeremy. You've been watching the Prep Zone here on DMVSTREAM.com. We'll see you next week.